I wanted to have my own web series, so here it is.
Who knew when I met you, you'd turn out to be the one? Who knew when I met you, my search for true love would be done? If anyone had told me our first kiss would be our last first kiss, I wouldn't have believed it, but now it's come to this.
I've been to about a dozen weddings over the years, but none as horrible as the red wedding. I find that I prefer the Jewish ones, not because I am Jewish, but because they usually have the best and the most food. There's bagels before the ceremony, then appetizers after the ceremony, and then usually a 4-course dinner during the reception. I didn't realize this was just a Jewish thing till I went to a few Goyish weddings, one of which didn't even serve dinner. I always go to weddings famished because I'm expecting a lot of food, and at that wedding I was hungrier than Katniss and pita. I find I have the most fun when I get to participate a little. In my friend's Quaker service, I got to read a limerick that I wrote for them. For my sister's wedding, I was the first groomsman to enter, and I was given very specific instructions to enter on the downbeat of the 5th measure of the Rocky theme, but then I was allowed to swagger as much as I wanted. When I went to Oregon, that was the longest I ever spent at wedding activities. It was for one of my best friend's weddings, and this was my groomsman outfit, and I wrote and performed the song featured in this episode. But after the wedding, we spent a week in Oregon, a bunch of us going around just to see it. But the first few nights, there was a lot of us at these beach houses, 28 of us, and then to pick where we were going to sleep, they held a lottery, and I got number 28. So I spent the first night in a walk-in closet. But at least I have my own room, and there were no windows, and unfortunately, the second night I got bumped to the couch in the common area, and I was woken up multiple times during the night, and then around 7 a.m. all those morning people woke up, and I just couldn't sleep any longer with all that noise. Let's just say for the next few days I was grouchier than Oscar, but it was still a memorable week.
Who knew when I met you we'd be walking down the aisle? Who knew when I met you the one thing I'd need was your smile? If anyone had told me love could feel so natural and carefree, I wouldn't have believed it, but now I've come to see.
When people get married and have babies, they disappear from your life almost completely, even if you have been friends for over a decade. It is very disappointing and upsetting when phone conversations are sporadic and brief, and instead of seeing them for your birthdays, you get emails like this.
Happy birthday, I wish I could come to your party, but I am a mommy now.
As if that excuses them from coming, though, having seen Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter is Dead, I do understand the urge to not hire one. Since parents think that their child is a miracle,
every year I get holiday cards from people who used to be my friends of their kids.
And I get to see countless Facebook photos and read statuses like this.
He managed to stay dry in his big boy underwear all day yesterday, except a diaper for nap, including an unprecedented 5-hour stretch. Now we just need to work on notifying us when he needs to go so that we don't have to stop everything to sit on the potty every half hour.
As if we care. Smee has been potty trained since birth. Society says that marriage and kids is the best path, but they're not for everyone. Those of us who choose to postpone or forgo them should not be ostracized and ridiculed. It is a valid life choice, and a lot of people are happily single like Samantha Jones.
My future is you, a lifetime to spend. You're mine and I'm yours till the very end. My lover and my friend, who knew when I met you, I found my partner for life. Who knew when I met you, we'd soon become man and wife.
One of the main reasons I'm single is that my career is my obvious priority, but I do try to dabble in dating a bit, mostly to get material for this web series, Minding My Life Like Louie. This one time, my mother was telling me a story about how she was in this art class and met this woman who turned out to have gone to the same college as her, and they were talking, and then it turned out that her husband and my father also went to the same college, and they graduated the same year and were the same major and probably had classes together, and I thought this was a huge coincidental story, and they moved to the same town, and I was like, ooh, this is pretty innocent. But then my mother turned out to be as calculated and plotting as Frank Underwood when she said, oh, and guess what? She has a single daughter in New York City, and then proceeded to hand me
this photo with her email and phone number.
I couldn't stop laughing. I mean, the girl was not my type, and second, she has a regular job. Like, someone who goes to bed at 4 a.m. is compatible with the 9-to-5er. But regardless, I was happy my mom was at least not as bad as Mrs. Goldberg. Another reason I'm single is that I always fall for the wrong girls. I was hanging out with this one girl for a few months, and we had more sexual tension than Detectives Peralta and Santiago, but when I finally sat her down to have a talk about it, she was completely overwhelmed and said she needed time to process. So the next day I sent an effusive email to recap what we had discussed because, you know, I like to put everything in writing, and while it might have been a little much, it was not as bad as a lot of emails I have sent over the years and was as innocuous as Pinky in the Brain. Regardless, I waited 2 months before I could not take it anymore, and I finally sent her a text that was like, "Are you ever going to respond to my email?" To which she replied, "I thought that no answer was an answer." No answer is not an answer. It is by definition no answer. What if she had emailed me a question and I took 2 months to respond? How could you possibly know what the answer was? It's not like we were strangers who met on OkCupid and she just completely ignored me after that. We were friends for months. The moral here is do not try to date girls who are 23 because they are as immature as every character on Girls.
If anyone had told me I would live happily ever after, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have answered with laughter, but now instead I smirk, knowing we will make it work for all eternity. Who knew? Well, me.
Most relationships end in either a wedding or a breakup. And that's the topic next time. See you then on Everyday a Little Seth.
I wanted to